Didn't see you there. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you guys that are new here, my name is Courtney, and today we are going to start a brand new series on my channel called Story Time. So in this series, I'm essentially going to be telling you guys personal stories about a random topic of the week. And the reason why that I decided to start this series is because a lot of my close family and friends tell me that I tend to take a long time when I tell my stories. Like, I think I just digress a lot and go on a lot of tangents and kind of miss the point of why I'm telling a story. So the purpose of this series is to help me become a better storyteller and hopefully make it a little entertaining while we're doing it. So, it is story time. So, for today's topic, oh, you can probably see it. For today's topic, we are going to be talking about the moment that I realized that I could do anything. So let's just get started. So it all started the summer after my sophomore year of college, and I believe it was summer of 2016, and that was around the time when I had to start looking for internships, kind of deciding like what career path that I wanted to go on. The year prior to that, I had been working for the conference and event services on campus, and I kind of had an idea that you could get a job working in events, planning parties, just kind of like entertaining other people. So I looked into getting an internship kind of within that area and was able to get an internship at an event production company in Culver City. So this is kind of like the general area of where it is. I'm not going to show you guys exactly where it is because I don't know, I just kind of want to keep that private, but this is kind of the area, and if you know, then you know. So the environment reminded me a lot of the movie Mean Girls, and the reason for that is because the owner of the company, she was this like tall, beautiful, long blonde hair, rich white girl.
She's the queen bee, the star. Those other two are just her little workers.
Regina George.
And I had never spoken a word to her during the whole 3 months that I was working at that company. She also had a right-hand woman who was the CFO of the company, and I'm gonna call her Gretchen Wieners.
That little one? That's Gretchen Wieners.
And the reason why that I just think she's like such a Gretchen Wieners is because whenever Regina wasn't around, then Gretchen would kind of just like treat us like completely different than how she was talking to Regina. That makes sense. I don't know, it was just really weird. Like, I definitely was not her favorite intern. She would always assign me like really basic bitch work tasks, but I digress. There were a couple of other people in the office that I could probably categorize as Karen, but let's be honest, Karens are not going to be a relevant part of my story, so moving on. I was really thankful because I actually did get along with one of the heads of production. Whenever Gretchen was just kind of having a bad day, then I was able to go to this head of production and she was able to give me more like valuable work to help her on the projects she was working on. The company that I worked for was kind of like three companies. It was one, an event production company, but they also had a marketing company and a furniture rental company. So I thought that it was really cool because I was able to kind of get an idea of all of these different career paths. The company as a whole worked on more entertainment type of events. So they did like movie premieres, they did like galas, and one of the biggest projects that they had in the works during that summer was this big music festival that they were going to be producing in New York. So the head of production that I got along with was the lead on this music festival project. So as I was kind of helping her out, I ended up finding out that one of the interns that was the hardest working would be able to go with them to New York to put this whole festival on. Over time, she did tell me that if I could come up with a plan of how I can conduct this giveaway contest where I had to track a hashtag on 3 different platforms and pick a random winner every hour of this festival, then I could go to New York. So I don't really know how the hell I did it. I was able to generate all of these hashtags and do it for free, which is just like really mind-blowing for a 19-year-old when I really think about it. But I was able to come up with it and I presented it to her and was able to go on this trip with them to New York. To kind of give you guys more of a background of how hard I worked for this, like I had to commute 4 hours, 3 days of the week and work 8 hours of each day at this internship. Like having to drive 4 hours each of those days in traffic in LA was just like
horrendous.
But on top of having to commute and work those 8 hours, I was also working part-time on all of my days off at an ice cream shop. And just a week before the trip, I caught a really bad cold and went to the doctor and found out that I had bronchitis.
I can't go out. I'm sick.
So the thing is, with bronchitis, you're technically not supposed to travel because the altitude technically makes your like sickness worse. And knowing that, my parents were really on the fence about letting me go on this trip, but I worked way too hard to get there, so I knew that I was going. Finally, the day arrived where we were going to travel to New York. It was a 4-hour flight and it was pretty difficult considering my sickness, but I really tried to push through because there was no way that I wanted to go back home. I really wanted to be there for this event and just kind of experience New York because I've never been there before. From the moment that we get there, I step out of the airport and I just see this beautiful sunset with like all of these nice, huge SUV, like celebrity-like cars driving by, and I couldn't believe that I was in New York. I honestly felt the energy of that city from the moment I stepped out of the airport. So we went to the hotel and the next day we were going to start our load-in. So we were the marketing and event production team for a big media company, and we pretty much had to set up a lounge slash mini stage at this festival, and we were also creating this dome-like structure that was gonna create like a stimulation with a whole projector up on the screen. If you guys have been to Coachella recently, you probably have seen it, but that was like the very first year that we tried it. So for the first 3 days of our trip, we were just loading in. Load-in is probably like the hardest time for any type of production because every day we would be waking up at 6 a.m. We wouldn't get done until 10 p.m. I have to go back to the hotel, sleep, wake up the next day and do the exact same thing. And mind you, I am sick during all of this time. So after those 3 days, the first day of the festival finally comes and I had to go somewhere to get some supplies for our team. And as I was coming back on site, I had to go through the staff entrance and I ran into an issue with the head of security, who is this old white man, and he just was giving me such a hard time trying to get into the venue. Like I had my staff wristband, but I don't know, I guess because he hadn't heard of the company that I was working for, and because I was really young and maybe because I was Asian, that he just didn't believe me and he was just giving me a hard time, but I honestly did not give a fuck and just got out of the car, grabbed my shit and walked right into the venue. So I was able to get my supplies to my team and the day started. I started my job and the first day was a huge success. And if you work in any sort of production, you know how much time and work you put into just planning this one day, that when the actual day comes, you just get this like huge relief, especially when your clients are happy, when everything is going really well. So at the end of the first day, my boss gave me a beer to celebrate the success of our first day. As I was walking back to our staff tent, I ran into that old man that was the head of the security, and he saw me with the beer bottle and was giving me a really hard time for it. So long story short, I got kicked out of the festival and wasn't allowed to come back for the last 2 days of the festival. The next day, I woke up with everyone else, got ready, and asked my boss like what I should do. And she told me that if I went back onto the property of the festival that I technically would be trespassing, so that's not what she wanted me to do. So she gave me the company card and told me to put it onto my Uber account and said that I should just go explore the city, have as much fun as I wanted, as long as I do my job. So I was able to travel all over the city for these 2 days. I probably spent about $1,000 on Ubers alone, just trying to get from city to city all over New York and see all the places that I wanted to. I was able to still get my job done because I had this like portable Wi-Fi device. I guess it ended up turning out really well. I did do my job and I was able to explore New York, buy a bunch of shit, and just kind of get that really New York experience that I wanted, you know? After my 2 days of fun, the festival was finally over and we had to go back to load out. So I was allowed back onto the property. We were there for a couple days and I flew back, and at the end of my internship, I received a stipend for all of my expenses during that trip in New York and during my internship. And I was able to get a really good review from my bosses, and they let me know that if I ever needed anything that I could always reach out to them. So it actually really did end up working out, because a few years down the line I bought a Coachella wristband and I bought it for the wrong weekend. So I texted my ex-boss and asked if she was able to switch the wristband for me, and she was able to. So it was pretty awesome, you know? My bronchitis actually didn't get better until I got back from my trip, and now I do have asthma and kind of struggle a little bit with my breathing. But honestly, I was able to go on an all expenses paid trip to New York and, you know, get kicked out of a music festival, but I was able to work on a music festival, and it was like the first year that they did this dome situation that you now see at all Coachellas every year. So honestly, it was worth it for me. After going through all of these hardships that I had to go through with like commuting, getting sick, this fucking security guard that was such a huge asshole, like after going through all of those experiences and still being able to go to New York and, you know, live until this day to tell the story, now I know that I can literally do anything as long as I set my heart and my mind to it. And you guys can too. I think everyone has that drive and motivation in them. It's all about whether or not you want to actually implement that energy into what you're doing. If you guys have any stories similar to this about how you've overcome your self-doubt, how you built your confidence in yourself and your career to really like push forward and do the things that you want to do, please share those stories with me. Like, I would love to hear all of your stories. Leave them in the comments below. I realize that a lot of people at my age just tend to have like an issue finding that or believing that they can do it. Hopefully, hearing my story, the people who don't know if they can do it can realize that they really can, and as long as they set their mind to it. I hope I got straight to the point. Hopefully it was easy for you guys to understand. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and I'll see you next week on another video for another story time. Okay, bye.